everyone. As a backend developer trainee, we have recently completed our fourth project, that is URL shortener. We are the teammates, and this project will explain our teammates Ghanashyam. I will hand over to Ghanashyam.
Yeah. So hi everyone. My name is Ghanashyam Chhatria, and so for explaining our project, let me just share my screen first. So yeah. So this is a project of you. In this project, there are two phases here. So in the phase one, we are creating and in this phase one, we are creating and redirecting the URL, and in the next phase, we are using the Redis and cache as a database. And for creating our project, first we have to create the package.json file. So for that we have to run the npm init command, and it will create the metadata and the technical information of our project. So metadata consists the name, version, description, and the rest of the things like this. And the most important part is dependencies. So these many dependencies are we are using in our project, and dependencies also have their own dependencies, and that will be stored into the package.json file, and there are links also. And we are also creating the git ignore file. So whatever we write inside the git ignore file, it will ignore that file whenever we push the code in our GitHub. So it will ignore this file. Okay. And for the rest of the part of our project, I am handing over the Meenakshi. So over to you, Meenakshi. You can share the screen and explain the rest of the project. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Ghanashyam, for explaining nicely. And then we have creating a SRC folder for separating the code according to requirement, like controller, that is a handler of this project, and models, routes, and entry point index.js. Then in index.js, first I require the Express. Express is a Nodejs framework to build web application and mobile applications. And Express has a many inbuilt function and features. We are using these function and features in our project. In line number 2, I'm importing the mongoose here. Mongoose is an object modeling tool. With the help of mongoose, we are creating the URL schema, and we are connecting the database with the project. Then in line number 3, I'm importing the route by giving the path. Then in line number 4, I'm calling all the function which is present in Express in an app variable. Then I am using a express.json function. By the help of app.use, it is a global middleware. It will convert the data during the request response cycle. Then I'm storing my cluster string in a variable URL. Then I'm setting a port here by using a process.env port. It means our project will run on the 3000 port. Then I'm using a mongoose.connect function, in which I am passing a URL cluster string and then use new URL parcel true. It will allow us to use another cluster string, which is free. Then I am using a promises method then and catch. In then function, I am simply passing a callback function, which simply prints the message mongoDB is connected in the console. Then catch, if any other error will occur during the connection, it will throw the message to the terminal. Then I am declaring a global and local route. It means I am calling all the routes which is present in route.js. Then I am using a app.listen function, in which I am passing a port and an anonymous function which simply prints the message Express app is running on port. Then we are creating the model for URL. For creating a URL, I am using a require function for importing the mongoose here. Then I declare a variable. New is the constructor. With the help of new keyword, we can create a schema here. Then there are some attributes for the URL. First, for URL code, it has type string, and it is mandatory. That's why I'm using a required true. Then it will unique and lowercase, and then I'm using trim tool. It will reduce or remove the first and last space to the string. Then long URL, it has some type as a string, and it will also mandatory, and I'm using trim and lowercase in this variable. Then for a key URL, short URL, I'm declaring some types and required unique and trim and lowercase. And last, I'm using a trim timestamp. It will create the created and updated key at the last of the collection. Our collection name is URL. Then I'm exporting this collection URL schema and for accessing globally. Then I'm hand over to Aman for explaining further code. Aman, you can explain.
Thank you, Meenakshi. So basically, I will just explain about two API. We have created two API. The first one is for the creating the short URL from long URL, and the second one is to fetch that shortened URL. So let's start without wasting time. So here we have imported some modules which we have required in our code. The first one is our own module. Basically, this one is our schema we have imported from here. And after that, we have imported short ID. Basically, this one is to generate the short ID that using that we will generate our short URL. After that, we have imported Redis. Basically, this will provide us the cache memory. In short, we can say. After that, we have a destructuring, and we are importing only one function from util, that is Promisify. We will need in our function. Basically, here we require that. That is why we have imported. After that, we have Axios. Now, basically, this one is the most important, I think, in our code. This makes our code different from others, from tiny URL. Whatever you will provide, like a wrong URL or anything, that will be converted into the short URL from when you visit to the tiny URL. But in our code and in our project, that will not happen. If it is correct and valid URL, only that, then this we will generate the short URL. That is the unique thing of our project that makes us some different from others. So let's start from here. So here basically this one is the boilerplate, we can say. We are basically connecting to our Redis. Basically we will be, as I said, that we are using cache memory to fetch the data to reduce fetching time. That is why this one is the basically boilerplate. I will not go in depth. These are some credentials, and after that we have to put to connect our cache memory. After that we have two functions. The first one is set. Basically this one is used to set the data in documents inside our cache, and after that we have get. Basically this one is used to fetch the data from cache. So basically our function starts from here. So what is inside this function? As I said, that we are converting the long URL into short one. So here I am whatever the user will provide the link, basically long URL, that will be stored inside this variable. And after that I'm checking that this one is the basically to check that body is empty or not. Basically this one is to check that user is supposed to not send the empty request. That is why we are checking that one. Sorry. After that we have a variable. By default, the value of this one is the false. I will explain it later. After that, basically, if I explain that we are using Axios command here, we are so that basically this one is to check that the URL is valid or not. Basically, we will hit the URL using Axios. So this one is my object inside which we are giving the long URL. whatever long URL we will receive in the postman. After that, here I'm sending the request using XJS, and whatever link we have provided, using that, this will go in. This will basically check that URL exists or not. This one is to hit that URL. If URL is present, like we got the 201 status code or 200, that means we know that it means the URL exists. That is why after that we are setting this variable to true. We will use it later. So here we are using this. So basically, if we are able to get that URL, whatever the user is provided, then we will receive these two status code. Using that status code, I am changing this according to that status code, changing the value. So let's suppose whatever we have provided, the link is wrong and we are not able to get the page. So then in that case, this value will be false and this message will be executed, like we have provided the long URL. Suppose that we have provided the correct URL, so this code will not run. Control will go here, and what it will do, first it will try to get the document from a cache memory. If we have fetched, then it must be present in the cache. Let's suppose if it is present in the cache memory, then it will send us an error message that we have already shortened this URL. That is why it is present in our cache memory or database. Let's suppose that one is not present in our cache memory, then we will try to fetch that long URL in our mongoDB. And if we are able to fetch the document, means document is present in our database, then first we will set that document to our cache memory. So next time, whenever we are trying to fetch the document, then we will get that document from cache directly. And after that, I am sending the message, like error message, that URL is already shortened. That is why it is present inside our database. Let's suppose that URL is not in our cache and not even in our database. In that case, what it will do, it will create a short ID using short ID package that we have imported already. There is a function called generate. Basically, this will generate short ID for us. After that, using that short ID, what I am doing here, basically I am using here my protocol. After this, we know that this one is our to generate our local host. After that, we will get here HTTPS basically, and here we will receive the port on which we are running the code, like localhost 3000 or whatever. After that, I'm using that short ID, short URL code, and generating the short URL. Basically, now our short URL is ready, and here in the response, basically I will send this one. That is why I have set that value. Long URL, short URL, and URL code. And here I am sending the message with the data. So basically our code is completed, and we have we just got our short URL, basically whatever we were supposed to do in the code. So now our short URL is ready. So now we have another API to fetch that shortened URL. Whatever we have just shortened the URL, we will get that short URL using our URL code. So for this, we have to first store the URL code in a variable from user. So basically, whatever the URL will basically whatever URL code will provide the user, I am storing that inside a variable, and using that variable, I am first trying to get that document from cache. If it is not present in cache, then I will search in the mongoDB. So if it is present, let's suppose that it is present. So here I am sending message that we are getting from it Redis. Basically, this is not important. So if we have got that document, then I'm sending redirecting to it to the long URL. Basically, this one is a key, value key, which will be present in the data. Basically, we are getting the data here. This one is data. Inside that, our document with the that URL code will be present. So let's suppose we are not able to fetch that document from cache because we have not set the document before. Let's suppose in that case we have to search in our database mongoDB, we can say. So I'm going inside my mongoDB URL model and trying to fetch the document with the given URL code. Suppose we got that document, then this will true, and this will set the document in the cache, so that next time whenever we are trying to fetch the document, we will get in short time from cache memory. Basically, we know that cache is very fast. So after that, storing that in cache, I am redirecting it to the long URL. Let's suppose whatever URL code is provided does not exist. There is no any document with that URL code. In that case, we are sending the error message, URL code does not exist. And this one is for our like server error, whatever means we have mistake, there is a mistake server problem. Then in that case, control will go here in the cache and this will send us error message. So in the end, I'm exporting that to module. So this was basically our two API. Basically, this was a short project. So we have only two API. I have explained, and now I will hand over to Meenakshi. She will run the code and will explain the things, remaining things. So over to you, Meenakshi.
Thank you, Aman, for explaining. And then we have created the route.js file, in which first I declare a variable in which I am importing the express, then route, in which I am using a route function of express. Then I import the URL handler, that is the controllers and URL controllers. Then for post API and get API, I declare a route. Then I am calling the short URL and get URL function, which is present in URL controller handler. Then I write a API for checking a URL, correct URL. If it is not correct, it will simply print this message to the user, page not found. Then I export this route. If I run the both APIs, by NodeMon tool, we are using the Postman tool for testing the APIs. If I pass a long URL, then I hit the API. It will convert this long URL into short URL. This is a short URL. Then for get API, if I hit the get API, this is the preview of the get API. We are storing the database in a mongoDB cluster. This is our project. Thank you so much for both of you for collaborating and giving a valuable time. Nice to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Meenakshi.
Bye बोलो सबको. Programming geeks.
Bye guys.
Bye, programming geeks.
Bye everyone.